Hey, it's me, Bro Brian, and I just finished a fascinating conversation about a topic that all of you are thinking about 24/7 nowadays, it seems. AI, and a little bit of artificial intelligence. Yes, more AI. I have an incredible slate of guests coming up over the next couple of months that are in many different ways going to talk about and touch on the implications, the market opportunities, the platform usages of artificial intelligence. But we kick it off with today's conversation that I really deeply hope you enjoy, and that I hope you just kind of sit back on your walk, at your workout at the gym, in the car, on your metro bus, wherever you are in transit, that you're enjoying this podcast, either visually or in your ears. I hope that you enjoy this conversation with Kyiana Williams. Kyiana is the founder of two companies. We give you kind of a 2-for-1 view into the possibilities and the potential of artificial intelligence in our world in two very different industries, but we explore the through line that ties them together. And these two industries are a company called Entertwine, which she started a handful of years back, which is using AI to better enable and support the career pursuits of creatives or people in the creative industries, in the entertainment industry, to help them find the opportunities to advance their careers and or literally to get jobs in the industries. And then we talk about her second company that she has launched recently and is really on kind of a wild positive trajectory called e.e.r.s. And e.e.r.s is taking some of the fundamental AI technology from the Entertwine company and applying it to the world of civic engagement, the way that we as citizens or individuals engage with our governments or our institutions, and the way that those governments and institutions manage, collect, and distribute information and communication with their constituencies much, much more effectively. It is a fascinating, deep, and a bit long conversation about these two companies and the applications that underneath them. And I came away from this so both educated and informed about the potential, but the potential pitfalls and the potential upsides, but also, frankly, just inspired by her commitment to empowering us as people with the use of the tools that she has created over the last handful of years. So really, really engaging conversation with a great friend and mentee. And I hope you enjoy it as much as she and I did making it for you.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jared Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back, or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And as you most likely know, if you're a regular listener, this is the show where I get the pleasure to have weekly conversations with the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry, as we come together to try to leave the world a little bit better than we found it by the end of our conversation. Today, I'm super excited, frankly, grateful to be joined by my friend, Kyiana Williams, the founder of both companies, e.e.r.s and Entertwine, which we are going to unpack and talk about throughout the course of this conversation in a minute. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about her. She is a dynamic founder, storyteller, a connector of dots at the intersection of equity, AI, and public service. From an off-Broadway life to the heart of civic tech, she's building not one, but two visionary platforms: Entertwine, which is an AI-driven launchpad for underrepresented creatives, and e.e.r.s, an AI-powered civic chatbot that's reimagining how citizens and communities can access daily and emergency resources and information. Kyiana is a cohort member of the Microsoft for Startups program, an alum of I-Corps Hub West, a finalist in the Black Ambition Prize competition, and recently a Meta Llama Impact Grant recipient. In the world of headlines that tell us that AI is either going to deliver us the Terminator or the Jetsons, through companies that are predominantly led by middle-aged white tech bros who look like me, Kyiana is on a mission-driven, creative, purpose-filled career now, right? Where she works to represent underrepresented women. She has a degree in screenwriting for NYU. She's got a brain for business and humankind. And frankly, she thinks the technology should serve the people who use it first and not just the people who fund it last. I couldn't be more grateful to have her, because I think today she is, to me, the representation of what a modern day entrepreneurial thinker is in our changing world. So I'm super grateful to have this conversation. Kyiana, welcome back, and or good to see you again.
Hi, Rob. Thanks. That's a great introduction. Thanks. I really appreciate it. It's like all
How
the,
are you?
like, it's amazing. You knew I was on Off Broadway?
There's a lot going on there. I tried to do a little bit of research before we got together.
That's crazy. Like, that's like so niche. I appreciate it.
My
No, that's
pleasure. And
flex.
for folks who don't know us very well, I'll give a little insight. We actually just collaborated on some creative stuff for Kyiana. I feels like it was yesterday. I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Here in Los Angeles, we did some filming for e.e.r.s, one of the companies we're going to talk about, and kind of more broadly, everything that Kyiana is working on. And honestly, it was that experience being able to host alongside her that day with our film crew in South LA, which is just beautiful experience all over. But it was that experience that inspired me. I was immediately like, all right, I got to have her on the podcast. Like we've got to have this conversation and more of this conversation in a different format and in a different way on my home turf, so to speak.
Right. Because that was my home turf.
Right,
And
it's literally
now you
your
can
home
do what
turf.
you want.
It was literally your
Yeah, it
home turf
was.
as well in South LA, because we were like, as we left, I think you drove me around and
Like around the corner was my grandma's house, and we like
Right.
cried a little bit and then like drove off.
Yeah, and then dropped me off at the subway, that's a very, very South LA kind of experience. But I love it. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. This show is about amplifying your perspective, frankly, and your insights, right? But I want to hit us kind of first and foremost with just a very generic, maybe a little bit of fun, little tongue-in-cheek question. So what's it going to be? Is AI going to deliver us the Jetsons or the Terminator?
It depends on what movie we're in. And I love saying that. Like, everybody's like, oh, Kyiana talks about entertainment too much. I'll be like, are you serious though? Like, that's what movie are you in? Because I know what movie I'm in. I know what movie I'm participating in. And as a society, what movie are we all in? Like, are you all looking to be in the Blade Runner? Or are we all looking to be in the Jetsons? I prefer the one like the Looney Tunes where we like squeeze little drops of water and they all pop up into food, right?
Okay.
And we all have space boots. That's what I want for my future of the movies that we're in. And we could do a hodgepodge, right? Like we could do a hodgepodge of all the movies that we've seen and be like, this is the movie that we all want to see and grow into. I don't think it's, I can cut and slip the ones that you like.
I think you may have actually just hit on the big theme of today, right? Which is that we're not maybe necessarily only in it's the Jetsons outcome or it's the Terminator outcome, but the truth is, power to the people. If we recognize the power we have with these AI based tools and we take charge of that, we get to literally write, craft, curate, pure produce
Absolutely.
our own film.
Absolutely. Like if there's parts of different films that you want to implement, I feel mostly that someone somewhere in the world is leaning toward the Blade Runner because of the augmented reality, the virtual reality, the girlfriend that you can have in your back pocket sort of experience that's the one I'm like, oh, someone's making that happen. But that's just a segment of the movie, right? Like that's not just Blade Runner. In Blade Runner, there's also floating cars. That's a whole different industry in our world today. Like, I don't think anybody's able to have cars float. I think cars are too heavy. And I don't think anybody in the car industry is really focused on making cars float at this time. So I need someone to pay attention to that part of the movie and get that moving. There's all these different parts of the movies that we're not really paying attention to that, like, for some reason, somehow we've all advanced in every single industry in order to be at this point of view. There may be points where we look regressive in our movie that we're in. Like, oh, we still do farming by hand, but all of our deliveries are made by robots.
And maybe that movie reality is okay.
Oh, absolutely. I think
right?
We're at all different stages.
Or better or best, right? Like the combination of all these things.
I think it's a good point of view to be like, some of the industries we're at are not able to advance at the level that we think they are. They're not, the car industry is not going to be hovering. The food industry, agriculture, and all those sort of things don't make pill form food for us. They make powder food for space, but like we don't have pill form food. Someone's not working on that. Someone is working on that. It's not going to be ready for centuries or something like that. Then there is the space that most people know as AI and technology, where we are having lots of advancement in AR, augmented reality. We are having lots of advancements in conversations that feel like you're talking to a human, faces that look like humans online. We have robots that are sort of moving. I say sort of moving like humans. I think robots are going to be a lot harder because right now it takes so much energy, like literal electronic energy, to move the arm and try to figure out the fluency of how your joints actually move, that it takes a lot of hardware processing and like development to get to that point. So to be able to have, what is her name? The maid in the Jetsons?
Oh gosh, Judy. No, that was the daughter. Judy Jetson was the daughter, I think, or the wife. No, I can't remember the name of the maid. You're right. That's a great question. I'm gonna go back and check that out.
Just gonna say the maid in the Jetsons, she was able to move, but if you've ever noticed, she doesn't have legs or like really have arm joints. Right. She has arms sort of, but like the fact is like they sort of cheated the system of moving your legs is actually very complicated.
Yep.
And moving her arms, they were almost like stick figures because they didn't really have
and using technology of the era to create cartoons about the movement of robot arms in the 1960s actually was like still shows that we have a long ways to go.
Right. Like there's
I love that. I love that perspective. I'm curious. I say this lately, like in this last year, especially like here in LA, right? And Hollywood centric, television, film industry centric people, you're always running into them. And there was that kind of when the burst of the first versions of AI really hit everything from a creative standpoint, like online, you saw this huge discourse maybe last summer where everybody was like, oh my God, everything is going to be made this way, right? Versus the way that it's always been made. And my response was always like, hey, like there are probably 3 or 4 billion people in the world, in the planet that play video games and live in those kind of video game worlds where they strap on their headsets and they have their thing and they have their cool chairs and they like never come out of their basement and they love it and they live in it. And maybe those people don't ever go to the movies or watch television in a traditional sense or whatever. But then there are this other like 4 billion people that don't play video games. And like, I happen to be one. And so I'm like, I'm not against, like, if you want to use AI to create a bunch of movies and TV and stuff like that, that is literally just a bunch of not real people and not real, like it's all just artificially crafted. And you think that's a cool thing to watch as art, like go for it. There's, and then over here, I'm like, but I think there's also a huge, maybe more people on the planet who are like, no. I would like to see that the human actor or actress, I would like to see the story who's written by a person. I would like to kind of keep that going because that's how I like my art. I'm like,
that's like 2 different point of views that I want to highlight. So one point of view of like, not everything is for everyone, right? There's a whole segment of, I don't sport. I'm not for sports. I don't participate in sports. I don't buy sports gear. I don't watch sports content. Like, and that still exists without me being a patron of the sports, right? Yes. Like I can not engage in that and still have it be a whole dominant society that no one, Kyiana over here, doesn't engage with. Same thing with video games. Like that can still be a subsect of people are engaging with that. And then there are people who just choose not to engage with that. And then I think the second part, you said, I don't believe in AI generated
fair enough.
Art. Yeah.
And by the way, I actually would prefer that it didn't exist at either, right? But I'm kind of like, at that time, right, it was this binary, weird black or white choice of, well, that's it. No, we're never going to have a person direct a movie again. We're never going to need actors again. I'm like, that's just nonsense. Like, that's just like, we've had video games. We've had characters in video games, which have gotten more sophisticated, but we've had those for 30 years. And like, they just exist. And like people, okay, cool. Like go do that thing. And you don't care about actors and human stories and real tears. And like, okay, I do.
I'm excited to go into the conversation about this because I know I spoke about this yesterday with a friend about like how the guilds and the unions have fought back against AI generated stuff. So when we see art, the part of the union and the guilds have been like, no, you can't use AI generated stuff because then anybody can copyright it. Anybody can use it. Anybody can make money off of it. And that's not what big companies want. The idea that like it's scarcity or it's ownership, that is a policy that's not just in the union negotiation, but has been a part of the federal ruling of how copyright works for AI generated content. So the moment you make something that is AI generated content, well, now all of us own it and all of us can profit from it. And that is where companies have stopped like being so AI focused. And I'm very excited about that. Like, that's really great to be like, no, we want to be able to buy your stuff and then keep it for ourselves versus, I can't speak to this wholly because I don't work at Disney. Disney doesn't want to do any of that because they have a chokehold grip on copywriting Mickey Mouse. Like our copyright should have moved up every year and they are stuck hold on making copyright stay right before Mickey Mouse because they don't want Mickey Mouse to go into the public. And the moment it's in the public, anybody can use Mickey for any of their content.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. And again, these are like complex corporate, industrial, but also ethical, societal questions, which are fascinating. So, all right. So let's go back. I want to frame, because we've got a lot to talk about. And I want to frame up as equally as I can, or as well as I can, the value and the immense opportunity of both of the businesses and the industries that you're working to transform. So, the why of this show is that I'm just honestly just mostly deeply curious about how we either should be or we already are thinking more entrepreneurial about the big opportunities and the problems we face in our world, right? And in my perspective of your work, you're literally tackling two big ones at the same time, right? Yeah. So you're helping to make it easier for creative folks to find and build their careers inside of the rapidly changing, as we just talked about, entertainment business. But then B, very separately and fascinatingly to me, is you're diving into the use of technology to make our lives as citizens, as local citizens, as people who live in the world that we live in, more informed and better served by our relationship with our local government, either, as I said in the intro, like kind of in a day-to-day basis, or in moments of urgent emergency need. So let's break those apart. First things first. Let's talk about Entertwine, right? So how does Entertwine help make the world of building a career in entertainment easier? And or why is it so important to you that we do continue to enable and support like creatives in our society?
I believe in the philosophy here at Entertwine that accessibility is massively important. And I say accessibility, knowing how to access or get access to opportunities, get access to programs, get access to all these things that can propel your career forward. And when I was transitioning into entertainment from being on a hiatus for a short period of time, I was like, okay, so I'm ready to transition back. I'm feeling rejuvenized. I'm feeling like I want to come back. How do I get into the space? And the idea was like, oh, you left, you can't come back. And I was like, that's not.
You're like, that can't be like that.
That's not how that works. I need to be able to find the door to open and to get inside somewhere. And it was the idea that like just like government programs. Sorry to do a quick plug, but just like government programs, there are several arts programs that are run by nonprofits, that are run by the Academy of Motion Pictures, that we're just not hearing about. Disney has a program every year for directors that no one knows about because it just isn't widely publicized, but it's out there. And I've actually talked to people who work at Disney who've like, oh, I didn't even know that program existed. I didn't even know the Nickelodeon writers program existed. I didn't know HBO had a program that existed. I didn't know the motion pictures department had something that existed. The WGA had something that existed. The DGA that had something that existed. And so here I am looking to people and be like, I know there's a way to get in to this system, and I just need to figure out what is the door to getting inside. And that to me was finding these programs, finding these events, finding these people who knew about how to help me get into the industry. And that was just mostly accessing resources. And that's when I started thinking to myself that we just had a space where we could see all of these resources in one spot, like across the nation. This is not just in California. There's places in Maine that have the local theater program, that have a local internship program, that have all of these things in different spaces in different states, that if they were just accumulated where I could see them, I wouldn't be struggling with the idea that I can't get into the entertainment industry. That wouldn't be a possibility because there are so many people who are putting their hand out and being like, hey, I want you to apply to this thing. There's only 10 people who ever apply. I would love for people to know that this exists, but for some reason, I'm just not able to get outside of my bubble.
Classic entrepreneurial starting point. Solve your own problem.
Right. I was like, I want a job. Let me go ahead and accumulate all these things. And then I started thinking to myself, like, other people are having this problem too. Like, that's wild. And then I know this is not a part of the transition, but like the idea is the same thing happened with government resources where people who are in the local, state and federal government, like especially the local, will create programs to put people in school for like
Yeah.
first generation school. I have a scholarship out. I have this program out. I have this housing assistance program out. I have this first family program out. I have this single mom program grant out. And for some reason, people just don't apply to it because they just don't know it exists, because all of us are sitting around like, man, I wish somebody would help me.
Almost like that old world that we had when you were much younger and I was a little bit younger, of like, oh, if we just connect all this information on this thing called the internet, it's going to be so empowering. And we seem to have like rapidly skipped through that step and got to the phase where it's like, oh my God, we connected so much information that we literally can't find anything anymore. It's like the entire world is a library. There's no Dewey Decimal System. I just
Right. We have no
myself
discoverability.
terribly, right?
No, I mean, it's just Dewey Decimal.
So there's so much
Yes.
information out there, but it literally becomes overwhelming. And by the way, you don't have to apologize for the preemptive transitions, because for those that'll listen to this later and then will later watch all your amazing growth that will happen in your career over the coming years, they'll understand this conversation a little bit more. But the reality is, like, I wanted to have this dual-sided conversation today because I fundamentally believe, having known you now for almost 4 or 5 years almost, right, is watching the whole evolution of it, is like that everything you are about to do in civic service and with AI applications in that world is so deeply rooted in what you are already doing and have done, that it was important. So to me, it is a messy combination of things in the best way today.
And I appreciate it, because like it's you and all the other people around me who have really helped me refine that. Like, no, Kyiana, you've never really deviated from the same thing. It's just the topic is different. Like finding resources in entertainment. That's the same thing. Yep. Finding resources in the government. The same thing.
The origin story is so crystal clear when it's presented this way. So we talked about how you got to that, right? That origin story. Now give me a little bit of the why. Like, why? Maybe not just to you, like, okay, yeah, it helped you get a job, or it helped your friends get jobs, like because they could find them, or programs, or writing opportunity, whatever it might be. But like, let's go philosophical macro, Kyiana, for me with it. Like, why is it important societally that we enable and support creatives to find their way in the economy?
I mean, I always come back to when we were mandated to be at home during COVID across the world. What were we all doing? What kept us sane? What kept us from breaking down? What kept us alive? We were all watching TV. We were all watching movies. We were all reading books. We were all listening to music. We were engaging with the arts, and that was the way that we stayed sane.
Yeah. No, hell yeah. 100% true.
And I think to myself, like, during that period of time, you respected the artists that made that for you more so than you probably ever would have in your life, because you were forced to take a look at something that gave you the ability to be somewhere outside, mentally at least. You were able to escape the little confines of your home when you literally could not leave. I mean, I was in China when that happened, and here in America, you could leave, but you were petrified to go outside. In China, they locked you in your home.
Yeah. No, I like, and this is I don't think I've ever told you this story. So I would go for walks like I do. I love to walk. I would go for walks, my socially distanced, isolated walks all by myself. I would even wear my mask outside. I was that guy, just to be safe and respectful of other people. And I would go for longer walks because I was like, what's the point of going home? Right. Like, but here's what I found myself doing. I live in Los Angeles. I was at that time living in Koreatown, so it's kind of central city. And I would walk to the museum campus, to like where LACMA and the Brea tar pits and all that stuff is, because I kind of subconsciously longed for the years prior when I could go in and I could enjoy a stroll through the free museum on a free museum Monday or whatever.
Right.
And like knowing I couldn't go in
made it more enticing.
But I could, like, literally, I would go and I would just like plant myself outside on the bench and just sit outside the museums. And and there was a part of me that was like, it was liberating while also keeping me connected to like how much I obviously valued the arts when I didn't have it.
Yeah. And that's the point for me when it comes to art. Like, when we need it, it's there. When it's in the time of crisis, it's there. It's the ability to escape to a space that we want to be, or to have visuals that we can't have for ourselves. Like, I think we talked about this as an opener, the way we see our future, the way we see our civilization, the way we see our lives, the way we see AI is through how movies have projected it to us. The way I know that I want to go to Venice or I want to go to Italy is I've seen La Dolce Vita. Other than that, how would I know what Venice looks like? Or excuse me, it's Rome we're located in.
Italy.
Like Italy. How do I know I want to go to the islands, the seashell islands, if I've never seen it? This content that people are making to show us what the world looks like, to show us the places that we want to be, that's an art. That's someone taking a camera somewhere and showing it to you on Instagram, showing it to you in a TikTok, someone showing it to you in House Hunters, because that's what I love to watch.
Yeah.
Like, that's content for you to watch. That's an artist's job. That's what they've studied and done their career in. And I think when we had so much influx and so much to do, we weren't paying attention to it. And when it really came down to this is all you ever had, we found a new love for it. And then we still don't want to give, I mean, maybe more so today than we've ever done before, but like the arts have always been a struggling space for artists, like people who Van Gogh and all these other spaces where they don't live up to their glory until they've passed away. We don't want to honor the artist who makes the change in your life today when they're alive. They're just always struggling, and they do it out of love. And a lot of spaces, a lot of underrepresented people can't do it out of love because they need to make ends meet. And so that's why we have a lot of affluent people who make art, when really who you might most appeal to is the person who is in your socioeconomic space, who is of your same color, your demographic, but they just can't make art because they have this mentality or this restriction that they have to be able to sustain their way of life, of course. And so that's where I know art has a place, because we eat it up. We eat it up all the time. Yeah. And yet we just don't value it as much as we do doctors. We don't pay people as much as we do doctors to bring us joy.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
No, and I've seen some of your, I know firsthand some of your programming and things that you've done and that you do through Entertwine. And I've literally seen the faces and of not just you, but of the people that you collaborate with and the artists who the platform helps create space for and helps connect to their ways to make a living or sharpen their tools or sharpen their skills. And it's hugely admirable. Kind of last as we segue a little bit, but we kind of teased this in our debate about the Jetsons and the Terminator in the beginning. But I'm curious, right? I mean, like we're in a moment in the film and TV industry, the entertainment industry as a whole. Like it's terrific upheaval for a whole bunch of reasons, right? It's a reimagination of the industry, the relationship between like the corporations that run the industry and the creatives and all of that stuff, right? And so it isn't just about AI as I painted in the beginning. It's really as much a corporate shift and evolution of the entertainment industry. But like I've been around long enough. I mean, there was silent movies, and then there were movies that had sound, and then there was right. And so we've lived through all these things, and every time, right? I mean, the printing press was going to get rid of people talking to each other, and then the radio was going to get rid of the books, and then the TV was going to get rid of the radio, and then so we do this to ourselves, like throughout history, right? So I'm curious, and I ask you this because of your creative instincts as a participant in the industry, but also as an expert who looks at this from like kind of an executive standpoint now. What is the industry? What is the film and television industry inclusive of all of this change? Not just AI, but AI and corporate changes and how it gets financed. What does it look like in the next like 10 years, like the next decade, or even what does it look like in its next big chapter over another big chunk of your life, say 20 or 30 years?
I know I spoke to someone about this last night. Streaming didn't exist in like 2010,
Which
2005.
isn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. Like, if you really want to talk about like how things have been ultra super grappling with art and movie, TV, and film, like movie, TV, and film and TV, what has changed drastically hasn't been AI, because as we said at the beginning of this, it's like, oh, the federal government was like, nah, if you want to do AI generated stuff, then everybody gets to do it. And I'll get into that space in a minute, like why AI can't just take over people's writing jobs or take over any content jobs. Because honestly, how many times have you seen the same Hallmark movie over and over and over again and you still eat it up?
Exactly, right?
But the big thing, that corporate thing that happened, that most people, I mean, the guilds and the unions were fighting this. That was one of the big things they were fighting, was like, how were we supposed to know that in 2005, 2010, 2015, all of these spaces, that there would be this new revolutionary experience where the world could see my content, not just my country, but the world could see The Sopranos. The world could see Orange is the New Black. And how was I supposed to prepare to write a contract for royalties for a concept I have never even heard of? At the time, we had YouTube. We weren't even familiar with how YouTube worked or we didn't even have the bandwidth for YouTube to even load videos at one point. Like, it wasn't possible until streaming was able, our 4G connection, again, all different industries had to line up for us to have powerful Wi-Fi enough to stream and watch film content, movie content, TV content, and then spread it across the world. Our contracts were not ready for that. Our actors, our directors, our producers were not ready for what was coming. That was something you could never have been that was unprecedented. You can even fathom that. Like, there are things that we just don't fathom. Like, we are forewarned about a lot of AI, a lot of robotics, because we see it in content. There are things that just pop up out of nowhere that seem small, minute, and don't even pay attention to, but will change how we have content, how we have our lives in the most dynamic way. I don't even have a TV. We don't have a TV anymore. I don't watch commercials. What is a commercial? How does a marketer even reach me anymore? Like, I don't get marketed at anymore because I don't have TV anymore. Like, seeing a commercial is so novel to me. I'll stare at it with abandon.
That's funny.
And so that's what I think of in the next 10, 15, 20 years. I couldn't tell you what's going to come down the pipeline because that would be impossible. Right. There are things that we just can't fathom in that space. And I'm going to tell you right now, we can prepare for the things that we understand. We can prepare for AI. We're doing that. Mm-hmm. We want to see the world that we want to see. We're going to make edits as we come and go. But someone's going to come up with the most dynamic, changing thing. It'll come out of left field. It'll come unbeknownst to you, and you're just going to have to go out into the streets for 365, 380 days and make a change and be like, that was not what I signed up for.
I didn't think that was, oh, wow. Who did that? How did that happen? Like, I didn't think that was coming.
And they're going to have so much power, so much money to just make these changes. And then you're just going to it's going to be an after effect. It's going to be an after effect where you have to go out and be like, hold on, that was something I need to go back and rectify and make sure that we do better this, like, going forward. Because this brilliant idea, amazing. My content goes everywhere and you're green lighting everything and my future's about to take off. But hold on, it didn't take off. Right. Hold on. My royalties are 10 cents. My royalties are 25 cents for doing this massive show.
Yeah. And maybe we, the collective we now in the industrial sense, spent kind of a handful of years just like shouting at the scarecrow going like, why did you do this to us? Like, how did you do that so fast? And you still hadn't figured out. And now it feels like, and maybe you're feeling something the same or different. Like, to me, it feels like kind of on the ground here. Like, I feel an energy of that, like, awakening that's going on. Like, oh, okay, wait a minute.
Right. I'm paying attention.
I've now, it is like, as they say in sports, you're not a sporting person, but as they say in sports a lot, like the game slows down for the best. Like as players get exponentially better or they become more skilled or great in their career, more mature, the game slows down. That's a phrase and it feels like now maybe the game has slowed down a little bit for the creative powerhouses. And they're like, hold on. And now we have figured out what you did, how you did it so fast, why you did it. And now we're going to start making some different choices about what we do.
So yes, the game is slowed down as we've become aware, but that's just what it's going to have to be as all these new things come out. They're coming out rapidly, right?
Yeah.
And we're responding to it in human history. We're responding to it in the same sort of rapidness that we can, right? Like streaming came out, 10, 15, 20 years ago. We were able to react in the industry and be like, hold on, wait, I want to make changes. And I think with more of the knowledge that we have, the better understanding we have, the more control that we want to have over the things we want to see in our world, we're able to put a stop before it can grow beyond our explosive space.
No, I love that. I'll give you a little smidge of validation. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. My sense, like as an anecdotal example of that, right? We here in California, led by the governor and a bunch of state legislatures, we underwent a kind of, maybe we should rethink our own tax incentive programs to have our state be more competitive as far as offerings to keep filming of television, blah, 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 here versus where they were going. Right. Okay, cool. Again, like one of those, like, whoa, it all happened so fast. Like, we didn't know we needed to have better incentives, but now we do. And so we are. Right. But the interesting little anecdote, the reason I bring up that story is not to talk about that so much, is to talk about the anecdotal stories I've heard now over this course of, say, this summer, of the leaders in both the film and television industry, and some are leading actors, some are producers, writers, directors, etc. And this theme that I've heard, which I'm like taking great comfort in, because I think it validates what you said, is a lot of the people who have said, hey, wait a minute, and there's a movement here called Stay in LA, which is like an advocacy group from inside the industry saying, like, we have to make a compelling case to get people to stay. And those that are saying they either in the past, as all this turmoil was going on, chose to stay, or are now kind of vehemently saying, yes, we will choose to stay and film here and produce here. The logic is like, I just decided to. And like, some are then they'll go more deep into their explanations of their story, their particular production. They'll be like, I mean, like, could I have made a little bit more money? Could we have saved a little bit? Could we in this date or that? Yes. But also the talent pool here is unparalleled and there are more people here. So why, like, on balance, like, it just made sense. Or just the obvious ones. I'm thinking of Noah Wyle and his wildly successful show on HBO called The Pit last year. He literally is like, I live here. My entire career, my entire existence, all of my wealth is due to what this town has enabled me to accomplish. And so there's no reason I would ever film anywhere else other than to film here to give other people like myself that opportunity. And I'm like, so much of these things that we like to demonize and say, as you and I have like kind of pointed them out, like as if they are these institutional things that happened by these faceless, nameless corporations or institutions or industries that we then like to forecast blame upon. It really is it's oftentimes just a handful of people, mostly men, right? Like, it's just a handful of people who have made these decisions that said, like, I know we've successfully produced that film or show here in Southern California for this many years, but we're going to take it to Georgia or London or Vancouver because I can make 7% more profit. And in my business now, in this business now, 7% more profit to my board is much more important than the creative output of better, more talented people here.
Right. And you
so it's like, it's humans and the validation.
It's humans.
Sorry to jump on.
You're right.
Because I'm so excited about it because I think you agree. And I think it also talks to your bigger thesis that we're about to cover when it comes to e.e.r.s, which is like, if handfuls of dozens, hundreds, 1,000 people, individual people can make corporate businessy decisions that then dynamically changed entire industries and the forecasts and the economies of people and their lives, but then people on the other side, individuals, thousands, hundreds, millions of people who are the creators of the technology, who are the consumers of the technologies, who are the creators of what we want the world to be, we can make decisions too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe we wind up in a heated debate or battle between these people and these people, right? But then that's okay. I would love us to have that debate. I want to be in a battle with you.
Yeah, I want to be. It's a healthy argument, a healthy litigation between the two of us. It's not. like, I want to see the change. You want to see change. We're going to come out having, you know, compromised and something that we both hopefully don't like. And that's good.
Right.
But
Right.
it's the small changes that we're making ourselves. It's like, I know I had spoken to you about this before. It was like when we have the idea that we are not powerful or that someone's just going to make these big changes and they're just going to happen to us. And we just sort of take it as a blow to the face. No, you can stand up and be like, no, I'm the individual and these are the other individuals with me. And we want to see the change we want to see. And we're going to make adjustments to make this world the way we want to make it. And that's what I do and what other startup founders do, nonprofits do. That's what people who want to see social change do. Like, I feel powerful enough that I know I can make a change in some capacity. Will I make it difficult for the person who wants to have their way? That's fine. You know, boundaries. I have what I want and what I need in my world. And I need to put that out there and set my boundaries as well. Like, your wants are not greater than my wants. Your profit is not greater than what I want and what I want to see. And so when people do that, that's how you get this like ebb and flow of what the future will look like. And that's why I can't say what the future will look like. Because when there are people who look like me, people who feel the way I feel in different industries, they're like, well, I'm going to make some sort of edging on this plant that grows. It's not going to grow just straight up. I'm going to make sure it goes at an angle where I want it to go, just a smidge. And if all of us were more assertive in what we wanted to see, instead of believing that the powers that be just have an attack on us or have an ability on us, then that's how we can influence what's happening. I mean, that's what civic engagement, isn't it?
100%. I mean, you just underlined the entire conversation today, because through Entertwine, you're literally empowering people in the entertainment industry to have more information available to them so they can make better decisions about their careers. Right. And now we're about to talk about e.e.r.s in your second company, e.e.r.s. And I'm going to ask you something about how it was born, but in your second company, e.e.r.s, you are literally talking about providing and getting more information into the hands of we citizens wherever we live, so that we can make the best decisions about what we need and how we can live in our city, in our state, in our country at that moment in time. And so ultimately, the whole thing, the Kyiana Williams thesis to me, like the operating system of you throughout these two companies and whatever else it is that you want to do creatively going forward as a business, with business as your landscape, is about empowering people to have access to information. It's fundamentally, my words, not yours. I'm not the CEO of your companies, but it is all fundamentally driven about accessibility and equity and equality. Like, it's fundamentally about that. So in e.e.r.s, and this is an amazing story, so I want you to try and share it as best you can. Like, we talked a little bit about the fun we had filming for you, and the honestly joyful, grateful experience that I had in the 7-minute car ride out of Jefferson Park to the subway station, where you took me by and showed me your grandma's house. And I could feel from the driver's seat, like, your pride of having grown up in that neighborhood, right? But you watched, in a different part of your family history, you watched your grandparents' home in Altadena burn. I mean, you didn't literally watch it burn.
No,
I'm just being dramatic, right? But it burned during the now infamous historic wildfires we had here in Los Angeles back in January 2025. And while this was all going on, you realized you had some technology inside of the Entertwine platform that you thought, like, wait a minute, maybe we could use this to help people get, like, regular folks, not entertainment people, but like use this technology to help folks get information that they need in a disaster like this, like my grandparents just went through. And boom, e.e.r.s, e.e.r.s, the company name, was born. So please tell me why e.e.r.s is so important today. And then you can tell me, like, what does it do? Who is its customer and all that stuff?
Braggadocious on it.
Yes.
So no, it's a great point of view of coming back full around, like, oh, we could give recommendations and resources to entertainment. But what happens if you just had a different database? Like, what happens if we had resources for natural disasters? What happens if we just had resources for people in the local area that the government provided? Would it do the same thing? Yeah, it does the same thing. It's the same sort of ethos. It's the same sort of process that we're doing. It's still helping people. It just, the resources are different. And so I'm glad you brought up my grandma's house. My my grandparents and my family have lived in LA for at least a century, right? My grandmother, my mom on my mother's side, she lived in South LA. And then my dad's parents, they lived in Pasadena. So it was like, oh, for Christmas, we're just going to go down the street and go see grandma. And then we'll go up to grandma and grandpa's house for the evening. And so that was my childhood. And that was really great. And then in January, like you said, their house burnt down because of all the the fires that just raged out of, I guess,
Yeah.
nowhere in
Yeah. No,
Los Angeles
over the
County.
course of about 36 hours. Yep.
Yeah, just with older homes, dry homes with scrubs all around. Of course, they were a victim of the fires and their home burned down. Thankfully, they were able to evacuate, and there were a lot of the processes about evacuating that came out that a lot of people just didn't know about. And thankfully, they were able to get out, but they're not able-bodied. So there was a lot of question and fear a lot of people had just about people who lived in Pasadena. A lot of people who live in Pasadena are older. And so there was a question of like, how do we evacuate, especially if our family is not nearby? I know 8 people had died in the fires, and that's devastating to hear that we couldn't get 8 people out of the fires, but we got a lot of people out, and my grandparents were one of them. And it became clear to me, like, okay, so where was this, like wagging the finger, where was the evacuation process? Why weren't people helping my grandparents? Or like, why, what could we have done? And so, after the fire was over and all the emotional anger and panic and fear was gone, the sadness kicked in of like, okay, everything that they've ever owned, all the memories we've ever had there, like all the Christmases and all that sort of stuff, that's gone. And we looked to my grandparents and we're like, okay, what next? They're like, oh, we don't want to deal with this.
Sure.
We don't want to deal with this. Well, okay, well, there's all these programs. We think we know all these programs. We've heard that, they're supposed to be
Sure.
FEMA.
Sadie down the street sent me a text and told me she heard about some program from her nephew or her son. And all of a sudden it's all, again, lots of information and lots of resources, but...
Right. You have my cousin calling from Chicago. We have a family member in Louisiana who's like, yeah, when Katrina hit, that FEMA came through and they, could help and do all of this. And so we're reaching out to family on the grapevine, trying to figure out, we're trying to rebuild. We have a GoFundMe page up. We're asking people questions. We're doing all this sort of stuff.
And if your family and your grandparents' family was doing that, there are 14,000 other homes that were lost across Los Angeles that people were trying to do those same things.
Right. So we're all reaching out to the community in some capacity to trying to figure out how do we continue going back. And that's like the natural human way of doing things, of reaching out to others and seeking help. And it never occurred to us that we could go directly to the local government. We could go directly to the natural disasters response team to ask more questions about like, oh, what programs do you have that specifically are for this area? What programs does the state have that have these programs? We sort of just know. I think like my mom was just like, I think we can go to FEMA. And
Cause like it's some random member. And to paint the other side of the picture, to be fair, right, is like that system, the institutions, our local governments, our county governments, our state governments, our federal government, they all have programs and resources and things. And yes, some of those things were caught in this particular circumstance, as happens oftentimes, sadly, were caught like kind of unprepared or off guard.
Oh, yeah, say, absolutely.
Simply because of the rapid pace and the massive scale of it all. And but more practically, like there were probably a lot of people on those sides too who were like, oh my God, like, don't these people know we have all these resources available for them? And it's on our website. It's in that newsletter that I send out once a month to my constituents that nobody reads. And it's on the county website, like on page 712. Because
somewhere deep in there.
Right. Because government like is partially in the business of like literally creating the resources, approving the laws, setting up the systems, and then just kind of leaving it out there. Like they're not in the business of selling it to the consumers.
No, they're like, I made it.
Retail, even though it is retail from a consumption standpoint.
Right, because I don't know anything about it. So how am I supposed to know that there's this program on page 782?
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Shore Capital. In today's venture capital world, it's not just about cash. It's about relationships. Capital is harder to find, limited investors have fewer managers that they can trust, and the industry is just filled with far too much hype. Shore Capital is an early-stage venture fund investing in the world's most ruthlessly iterative founders, helping its limited partners to find founders who are solving the world's most dynamic problems, teams that excel in mastering the idea maze, teams moving with a rapid, iterative velocity and demonstrating radical resourcefulness. Shore Capital doesn't just write checks, though. They become fractional co-founders when needed, offering strategic support, high-leverage relationship development, and a deep commitment to the long-term success of their portfolio companies. If you are a ruthlessly iterative founder with a bold vision or a limited investor seeking sustained access to the brightest big thinkers of our time, Shore Capital wants to meet you. So visit shorecapital.notion.site to learn more.
Okay, so we know the information exists, but it's not easy to find. The people who put it out there don't know how to get it to the right people in time. The people who need it don't know how to get it when they need it. And then, yes, everybody can improve in the process. And we're thinking your thesis is underneath this now company that is e.e.r.s, that is a massive opportunity for you, which is what's driven a lot of the recent accolades and participation in some of these startup programs that we talked about in your intro. There's this massive opportunity / need for this, for all of us. So I'm not your grandparents, but I went through the fires. Not to make this about me, but like I've shared that story with you before. And same thing, I had county text I was receiving. I had information from this app. I had a third-party private company app called Watch Duty, which was reporting on all the fires all over the county and the state. And then I had the television on behind me. Literally, that television was on. I was just watching that, and that television happened to be showing a fire on the ridge of a mountain that I can see out this window that is like 3 blocks from my house. And it was like the evacuation order, the color of the screen was just, and I was freaking out, like most discomforted and frightened I was ever in my life at 57 years old. But in part of it was I was frightened because I didn't have clear information about what might happen next and what to do. And what you're telling us is that e.e.r.s fundamentally, and we're gonna unpack a lot more of what it means and its applications in industry and for who your customers could potentially be, et cetera. But like fundamentally what you're talking about is taking this artificial intelligence technology as it relates to databases and database management and information systems and helping people and or participants get the information that they need in a more timely manner.
Yep. It's like communicating with someone directly with the government who is in that department. It would basically be like talking to someone in that department who is an expert on the programs that they develop, right? Who can just speak to you in plain English or plain whatever language you need it, and plain speak. What is this program? What programs do I qualify for? It'd basically be like having a social worker for yourself. And the purpose of this, specifically for natural disasters, is to make sure that you are aware of the programs that are available to you, the discoverability of the programs. It has all of this database information. It has all this information that the government wants to communicate with you. They just don't have the bandwidth for. And this is a conversation I know we could go back and forth about, like, oh, AI is taking jobs and like AI is going to be a new social worker. I'd be like, there's so many positions that can't be replaced by AI. There are so many things, and I know we talked about this a little bit earlier of like, oh, is it going to change the world? And I'm like, we don't even have the robotics for certain things yet. We're not even in different spaces in different industries to even have an artificial intelligence come through and make any changes. And I say social workers because social workers are so overwhelmed. They already have to come in and do physical things that a robot can't do. Like they have to go into a school. They have to go into a home. One thing they don't want to do is have to research and do all the paperwork that they have to do with so many people already. If they could just be of service immediately. Same thing with the government. The government before January was at the staff that it was already at. We hadn't done any cuts yet in January. And yet when a crisis hit, they were slammed to the eyeballs with having to communicate information to the thousands of people who were affected, and basically had a freeze up because they couldn't. They couldn't reach the demand because they would never have foresaw that something so devastating would hit so many people. When we have fires in California, they're hitting like less populated areas, right? We have fires all the time. Californians are like, oh, there's a fire. It's
in the forest. It's out in the
way
mountains.
over there.
Yeah, there might be like 9 people that live there, or it's a small town. Like
it's a small town, and it's
Paradise
manageable.
Fire up in northern, and there was 1,000 people lived in the town, not in the middle of a city of 10 million people,
a massive city of people. And so here, departments are like, oh my God, the phone won't stop ringing. Oh my God, we have to tell everybody all this new information. Oh my God, like it's spiraling for all. What, like, how big do you think a department would be? 10, 50 people? Like, the numbers are astronomical compared to how many people need to do the communicating to you. That's
so what you're proposing, if I'm hearing it correctly, is and we're just using my example. And then I want to also talk about something you said slipped in there that I don't want to let go unexplored about your grandparents. But so in my example, like I would never expect a human, like, I mean, this isn't like the world is too big. I would never expect like to be able to get a human to tell me what's about to happen to the fire in my neighborhood while 12 other fires are going around the city and what I should do next. But I also was overwhelmed by the number of information sources I had that were either pushing stuff to me in notifications or that I was trying to track down to try and get an answer. Now you're telling me that there is a space in between that in which technology could have delivered a more personalized guide, virtualized person to me, an agent, right? That would have helped me navigate maybe all of that in one. Man, I would have welcomed that
everybody
artificial
would have
person that night.
So when you get the notifications, it's someone who's texting that notification out to everyone. It's not just an automated message. Someone has sat down and been like, hey, Rob, there's a fire down the street from your house. And that's a notification that you got on one of the apps that you're on. Someone is typing that to you. How would it have been if e.e.r.s was available during January and there is someone who is in the natural disasters department being like, okay, I need to now put this in the agent and let the agent know that whoever communicates with it, like, okay, if they're in this region, they now need to evacuate. And that would now be widespread to anybody who communicates with this agent, knowing that I am the communicator at the back end, updating it in real time. Like, okay, this region now needs to evacuate. This region needs not to evacuate. Oh, this place can stay safe, but they just need to make sure that they close their windows and make sure their air purifiers are on. Like, that's something that a notification is already doing for you. It's just now it's all in one space. And I am the human who is making that communication with you. It just happens to be an agent is able to do it to thousands of people at one time. And I'm not going to be able to text 1,000 people as a communicator, but I can tell it what to say.
And we're, again, to reemphasize, like, this is not replacing a job. This is not replacing a person. If it's augmenting people. It is, it is.
You're going to talk to Kyiana 1,000 different times.
It is enhancing my ability to get service from my city council district, my county, my city, my state. Like, it's enhancing the ability to do that because it is enabling, if I'm hearing you describe it correctly, it is enabling the systems, the institutions to be scaled up in an almost real-time way that the human systems, I don't care how funded your government in some fantasy version of government in the future would ever be, it could never scale at that human level. That's just not doable. That's not I wish it could. That's not. It's just not
going to be possible. Like, I'm going to send,
never.
It's like saying, I'm going to send an email to 500 people and I'm going to send individual emails every single time instead of doing a CC for every, like,
Thank you, Gmail, for that innovation like 20 years ago, right? So,
easy.
so you said something and kind of slipped in there and I want to hit on it because you mentioned when you were talking about the profile of your grandparents who lived in Pasadena, that they weren't like fully able-bodied, right? They're aging people. So that was an encumbrance upon their experience and how they had to navigate it. That immediately now makes me think when you said kind of slyly, like, imagine in talking to you in your language, whatever language that is. And I was like, wait, what? Right. So we're talking about what we just described, the scalability of this information to people in real urgent needs, but then also making that information available to them in the ways that they consume information. So maybe disabled people, right? Or limited people with limited abilities because of various things that they have going on. You're now talking about enabling them, getting information to them in ways that is accessible to them, and or then also just generically by language. I mean, obviously, super diverse city here in LA. So there were lots of people who also didn't have the Watch Duty app because they're not suburban middle-aged white guys and they didn't think to go look up an app made by, right? Yeah. So like there are lots of people who don't have the My 311 app here in the city. There are lots of people who frankly just don't have the thought process to say, oh, I should call my local government and try and find out what's on the website because they're worried if the website is in Spanish or French or Armenian or Haitian or whatever language it is, which,
or
by
updated.
the way, we speak like 224 different languages here in Los Angeles County alone. So you're telling me that hypothetically the e.e.r.s system would be enabled in such a way that it could enable that real-time support and distribution of information in multiple languages,
Yes, because during a fire, if Spanish is my native language and I'm not quite sure if this says I need to evacuate, or I'm not quite sure if this says what I think it says, that's not an experience I want to have. I'm already panicking. You're already panicking. You felt the panic of having all this information to you in English already. And now imagine I can't quite understand I've been in a country where I can't quite understand what's happening in the language because I don't speak the language well enough to know, I think there's something wrong. I got that part. That part's clear. I don't know what to do about it. And now I'm more panicked and anxious because I don't actually understand what's happening or how to fully understand it. And then one key point I forget to tell everybody, my grandparents speak Twi. They're from Ghana. So they're being able to communicate and read in a language that would fully understand for them is like, oh, you need to leave. There is an imminent danger around you, should be accessible to them. Thankfully, we speak English well enough to communicate with them that we have family around that we can help and get them out of their area. But yeah, there are people who speak other languages who don't have the ability or don't have the fluency to understand what's happening in English. And that doesn't mean that they literally deserve to die because they can't get their information.
Right. No, I mean, and what do we all want in a moment of comfort? We want that which we are most comfortable with, like in a moment of panic, I should say. Right. So that's a powerful capability. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the business guy in me, and I want to talk a little bit about the business transformation opportunity of e.e.r.s. The user is we, the citizens. It's individual people, right? The customer, your client, in this business is prospectively governments or large institutions, large organizations that interact with the public and have large storehouses of data and information.
So we have separate different types of customers. I know I've spoken.
Tell us about that.
I spoke a little bit earlier of like social workers are the people who use it. And it's not always for the individual. There's a social worker who lives on the East Coast who uses it through their department, who uses it through their nonprofit, their organization who's commissioned with us. Right. So that they have this tool to their ability to have the resources better understood by them by whatever database that they have. That's a tool that they get to use to help them do their job better. Then there are places or departments that want to have it more publicly available to people for their own set of communication. Now, it's not here to take on the job of a social worker because, like I said, it's going to be a social worker has to go into the home and do all these sort of different things. But when it comes to communicating different aspects of services, when we're talking about natural disaster, the emphasis for the agent would be, okay, did you finish your FEMA application? How can I help you with your FEMA application? How can I help you with that sort of service? Versus if I'm going to be a communication agent for a different department, maybe it's more specifically Parks and Rec, I'm not going to talk to you about FEMA stuff, right? Because Parks and Rec doesn't really have that sort of involvement. Maybe your questions are more geared toward hours of when parks are open. Maybe it's more geared toward these events or how to book a park in your neighborhood. How can I book this local park in Los Alamitos? How can I book and have a party here? What are the restrictions? Can I have alcohol outside? These are specific questions that, sure, you absolutely should be able to call the Parks and Rec department. There's a lot of people who are volunteers in Parks and Rec department.
Yeah.
And so like the information would be best served by an agent who is an expert at that knowledge and can tell you about the Parks and Rec department versus a different agent who can tell you about natural disasters in FEMA or a different agent who can tell you about all these different things. And that's where I think when we talk about AI, when we talk about chatbots, we talk about all these different spaces, and it's been revolutionary being up here in San Francisco to really know what people are building and how they think about them. The idea is that agents can't be generalized. Like it's going to be the same sort of issue of the Google search where like, if it's too big and too general, then I know nothing.
Right.
We want people to be experts in that one space. We want to be able to go to that one person in Parks and Rec and be like, actually, you know everything about Parks and Rec. I trust you. You're a trusted resource. And that's one thing about e.e.r.s that we pride ourselves on is like, we want to be a trusted resource for that department. We are the trusted resource, that voice, that communication agent for that department, for that resource that you need. We don't need you to doubt anything that we have to say because we're getting it directly from that person. There's a person on the other line updating that information. That is the important key part here. It's information that already exists, but there are changes in that information all the time, right? There was an application that was open and now it's not. Okay. A human has now decided, oh, we need to expand this application. There are more people who need to use it. Go retell everybody that it's open again. So a human goes back into the system and is like updating it. Hey, new announcement. You can still apply for the next 2 weeks. There's an engagement part that comes with being an agent. There's an engagement part that we're using these tools to expand and amplify the departments that we are and in the need that we need to. There's millions of people now.
No, I mean, we talk so much, like in the political discourse, not you and I, but the general political discourse, right, about government efficiency and departments of government efficiency even, which I'll skip my political rantings for this episode. But the practical part of that, as I'm listening to you throughout today, but as I'm listening to you in this last segment, I just keep closing my eyes and seeing a profile of two young women who I know that work on the staff inside of the city council district office that I happen to live in. They are on average responsible for or connected to a constituency, a number of voters that live in each district of about 275,000 people. And this is one council person who essentially then by default represents 275,000 people, which if you understand the context of the scale of populations in the United States, though 275,000 person city, if it was a city of its own, like in the middle of Nebraska, would be in the top like 30 size cities in the country, right? So we have like mega huge cities and then we quickly drop off to like cities in the couple of millions. And cities with 300,000 people is a big ass city that have their own fire departments and their own budgets and their own police departments and their own, in the way that our government operates here, I'm thinking that staff person, those staffers that work for that one council person in responsible for all of us that day, trying to communicate information because we're on their mailing list. Her staff, it's a woman that is the council district. Her staff's about 15, 16 people.
Right. It's small.
About four of them are part-timers. And about 8 of them are people that just solely went to work for her because they love her and they watched her campaign and they were on her campaign. These are not professional government people, right? And yet those are the people who are like, holy shit, I'm basically the mayor of this city that is called a district inside of this massive city. And then there are 15 other people that are doing that at the same size and scale. And then they've got their own attitude about how they communicate information to their district, right? So if what you're telling me is that those people, those staff type people, and then go up a level, the emergency office of services people from the city, from the county, from the state. California has a California operation office of like emergency services, right? Or all these institutions could essentially embed e.e.r.s into their information systems.
Yep, the communication systems.
And then be taught by you guys, like how to use them, how to deploy it, how to program it, how to prompt it.
How to have a person be the main speaker, right? Like this is kind of come directly from that council person, but it's going to be me, the intern, who's going to make sure that all the information in there is accurate, or that this is someone's job to make sure that the communications is done right? Like that's a communications is a position somewhere, and to make sure that when we communicate out into the public, it's well known. And it's a great point that you've made that like there are 16 people who have to manage 275,000 people.
Yeah, on a daily basis, because we've talked a lot about fires, and it sounds like it's only emergency related.
Yeah, no, it's daily basis.
Yeah, like I'm like the daily basis is the harder part, right? So like I've got a pile of trash out in the park outside this window, right? That I want to get picked up, and I go to this app and I file it in there. And I mean, it's got to find its way through like that department office and then probably 6 different departments of different agencies around the city. And then they're understaffed because they're trying to like that trash might not get picked up for like 7 or 8 days. And but
it's going to get done eventually.
Right?
But I think that the point that you had made of like those people who are helping that representative are civilians. And I think that's part of the thing that gets lost. And we could be a little bit political in this space, but like government is ran by people who want to help other people, typically, especially at the local level, at that level, like they're not politicians, like you said, they're not really government officials. They're sort of just like, I like this person and I like helping people. And there are times when we don't know how to help people. There are times where we just really want to get involved. We really want to have this thing like serve people. We really want to be helpful. We really want to save people. We really want to do these programs, but we don't know what we're doing all the time. Yeah. We just have the right spirit. We have the right civic engagement that we want to do. And it's those people that I'm like, we can help you. We can help you in
Obviously.
those spaces. We know you're not the professional in this space, and that's okay. Like, people are coming at you all types of ways, feeling a type of way because of the political atmosphere. And we forget that there are people at different levels, especially on the more communal level, who are here to provide that civic engagement, who are here to provide those resources that we really need, and that we oftentimes forget that they're here for our greater good.
Yeah.
They're here building for us to have these things, and that we just don't know that they're doing them because of all the discoverability issues that we're having.
And
so
equally scalable, though, because I've been around business long enough, I've been around technology businesses long enough to know that if you found an application for something that can work on a local level, it can probably work on another local level that looks just like that in a different jurisdiction, and then it could work on multiple. So like equally, this is me saying it, tell me if I'm wrong, but like FEMA, right, as a government, as a federal agency, could hypothetically benefit from the deployment of tools like e.e.r.s inside of its system, because it could essentially then make its operational communication mechanisms with its users more efficient, right? Or
I know
it could be the Department of Defense, it could be the state government of California, it could be whatever.
Right. And it doesn't have to always be external. Like, a lot of those times there's systems inside that people in those departments need better clarity on, and that they want to have someone or an expert on, an agent be an expert on. And I know when you talked about FEMA, I had said this earlier, was like, when people apply to FEMA, most people stop the application process because they get overwhelmed or something like that. There'd be to have someone who would sit down, or something, an agent to sit down with you and be like, where are you having trouble? Let's get this application done for you. Let's get this together. Let's progress. That's what e.e.r.s does. It would sit there and make sure that you get your work done so that someone can help you, because there are these long, complicated systems in place to provide aid. Well, people still want you to have the aid. There are people who've made the program for the purpose of giving you the aid, and it just happens to be it's this tedious process or application. And there are people who are genuinely upset that people stop halfway through and just don't seek the aid. So, but they can't sit here again with the 275,000 people and help each individual do that. It just wouldn't. It's not possible.
No, it's like, remember, like in e-commerce when it first came out, there's that phrase. It would say like, you abandon your cart. Right.
No,
like,
I don't know that.
So it's a phrase like in e-commerce online shopping of like, I went in, I looked at something, I saved it, I put it in my cart, but then I never bought it. Like, so, and the retailers would look at that and be like, whoa, man, that's the equivalent of like, they shopped around our store, they pushed their cart into the aisle, they were the next person ready to pay, and then they just like walked away.
Just walked away from the cart.
So you're trying to figure out like why they did that. How can you not have them do that? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right. So,
and this is not about like buying anything. We're not in the capital. It's the opposite. Like, we want to give you. Yeah.
That's what I was going to get to. Is like, it's more important. It's like the abandonment of the application for a loan or for debt relief or for programming or for school access. And like, the abandonment of that application is actually more injurious to the people abandoning them. And governments, as you said, are just people. It's a combination of collection of people. They want you to get those services. They want you. That's why they create these things. That's why we pass these laws.
You know how devastating it would be to like create a whole program, put your whole chest into a program and be like, I see this problem. I see that this single mother is having trouble getting her child into school. I'm going to make this program. I'm going to get this grant together. And then like, you make it happen, and then no one applies to it. And then in 5 years' time, the powers that be are like, okay, we're going to pull this program. Nobody applied to it. It wasn't necessary. You know how devastating that would be?
I mean, and it
happens all the time.
That is essentially, to me, in practical, less hyperbolic terms, like, that's government inefficiency.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at e.e.r.s. You know, running any business, but especially a law firm, means balancing a lot. And technology, frankly, shouldn't be a headache. e.e.r.s. makes information technology and cybersecurity simple for law firms large or small. With over 20 years of experience, they specialize in everything from Microsoft 365 management to advanced cybersecurity solutions. They help you to stay ahead of threats, manage your data securely, and keep your tech running smoothly so that you can focus on what matters most, your clients. e.e.r.s. understands the legal industry's unique needs, offering tailored solutions to ensure that your firm is always in compliance and always protected. Are you ready to upgrade your firm's technology or get help with your questions? Visit e.e.r.s.com.
this is to me essentially e.e.r.s, as I'm listening to it, is making government more efficient.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's delivering more services to us. And fundamentally, that's what you were talking about. And that's what you were doing for half a decade with Entertwine.
Yeah.
Already, right? And so to me, that's why I love this theme of today's conversation. And I actually think it's like a defining set of attributes about who you are as a leader, as an entrepreneur, is that there is this built-in sensibility that says, I really just want to see the people around me, no matter what the context, be empowered with the information or the tools they need so that they can advance, so they can progress, so they can live a better life.
Right. And if it's
That's,
already
to me,
out
that's
there.
Kyiana Williams.
Thank you. I agree. That is her.
You weren't like when I met you 4 or 5 years ago, like you weren't just purely an entertainment industry person. And you also now you weren't any stretch of it, like just an AI person. Right. But the through line,
they don't
here,
understand. Like
the through line. That's what I really want of this story. That is the story of you, which is now created to what some people might think is like wildly different, incompatible businesses, and might think like, why is she doing this one? Why isn't she only doing this one? Or why is she doing these both? Or like, if they listen to this, I think that people, investors,
will understand the through line.
Customers would be hard pressed to not understand why this is exactly what you're doing.
Right. It's not, the arts get funded through the government. If that's what we need to say, like, just to make it clear to people, be like, you like the MoMA, you like the museum down the street, you like the commissioned art piece outside. Guess who funded that? It was someone in the arts commission who thought, oh man, this program is great and we should tell artists about it. Same thing. In a different commission in Los Angeles, someone has said, oh man, this program is great. We should tell moms and dads that we have this free food program, a reduced food program. We should tell people about it.
Yeah.
And
no,
I think it just is a different department. Now we're just not in the arts department anymore. We're like, oh, the other departments need help too?
Right.
Oh, that's great. We could do
okay.
that.
Parks and Rec, emergency response, like sanitation,
social services, sanitation,
services, health and wellness, healthcare. Like you need to be more efficient. You need to better distribute information to your constituencies so that they can have better outcomes, which is better lives. Like, great, we're here to help you.
Right. And now, we started out in the arts. We started understanding the arts. And then we thought like, wow, can we do this in larger capacity? Can we do this with more information, more data? Yes. So why don't we? Why don't we try and change the world that way?
I absolutely love it. I have one last question before we get to our closing segment. History has shown us time and again, right, that through periods of great uncertainty comes great opportunity. And also, I will also add to that and say history has also taught us that through great periods of uncertainty and even sometimes decline come great renaissance.
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to lean into that part of your spirit for a minute here before we get to our closing question. What excites you the most about the next 10 years?
I'm excited about how many people are engaged in different things. I think I look at social media and I look outside and I see, I'm a little bit of an optimist in this capacity, but like to your point, when there are bad things that happen, there are good things that come of that. And I think there's a lot of bad things that are happening right now and people are not here for it. And I love that. I love people not being here for the things that they don't want. They're setting their boundaries. They're like, I don't want these things. I don't need these things in my life. I don't respect these things. I don't like your choices. And I'm so motivated by everybody else being so motivated in all these different spaces. Like, it's not just one political movement. It's not just that one event or program. And it's not just any of those. It's like looking all around in 360. There's so many people who are gassed up about the problems and the things that they don't like and want to see active change about. And I am so excited every time I'm outside, every time I'm seeing like revolution and change and people being engaged in their civic and duty. Like, I want to see the world I want to see. And I'm like, yes, I do too. I'm so glad we're out here being like, no, my opinion matters and I'm going to make sure someone knows and we're going to fight for what we believe in. And I have not been so motivated as I have been maybe these last few years to really see like that we all feel the strength, the power to make changes that we want to see in the world, and that the world is adjusting to what we want to do. It's almost like being in the civil rights movement where everything is just like, I'm going to boycott this, I'm going to boycott that, I'm going to make big changes and someone's going to listen to me, the small person. And then the small person gets hurt and you're like, well, that was, tingles everywhere. So that's what I see in the next 10 years is like, we're in the movement where once we've done it once, it lives within us, right? It's not going to be dormant anymore. Like we saw the change that we made, 10 years ago. We made big changes. We were loud about what we wanted. And in 10 years, when we need to do it again, we're ready. We're more awake. We're more conscious about what we want to see in the future. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about is like having people stand up for what they believe in and making the change they want to see in the world.
It's a beautifully hopeful, pragmatically optimistic view. I love it. No, I love it. I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit of validation. I was talking to a friend, multiple time CEO in South LA last week, and he said to me that he thinks that we are in the midst of the equivalent of 2 or 3 civil rights movements all going on at the same time.
Same time. Yeah.
And he was like, he's maybe late 30s. And he was like, if you can't be energized for this being our opportunity, Rob, he's like, I don't know what can get you out of bed in the morning.
I mean, for real, because there's so many other movements just happening, and it's, back maybe during the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of people felt fatigue. There's a lot of fatigue around being outside and like seeing the change. It's crazy to be in this year, 2025, where there are just so many spaces that need our attention, that need voices that are out here crying out, I feel like we're feeding off each other's energy. I haven't felt fatigued yet. I just keep getting up, feeling fired up. I'm sure there's people fatigued out in different spaces, but it's like, I'm over here fighting for this cause. I'm over here fighting for this right. I'm over here fighting for this. And we're all looking at each other like, okay, you got that side. I got this side. I got this side over here.
100% agree. 100% agree. I've amended. I used to say, I thought it was like 2020 to 2025 was going to be this transformative period. And I've now subsequently amended that because the world just kept burning. Right. And so I now look back and say, like, I think we will look back in my life. I'll be in my 60s by the time this all comes to pass. But I believe we will look at the decade of the 2020s, like the 2020 to 2030. I think we'll wind up being a transform. And we, the big collective we, will be different on the other side of this.
Yeah.
In the best of ways, because I would argue what we're living through right now here in the United States, but everywhere, but what we're living through acutely right now, I think is just the final manifestations of the worst things across every aspect of our history. It's just vomiting itself up in front of us all day, every day right now. Hoping to essentially win by attrition, by us just like giving in and going like, I'm too tired, I'm out, I tap out. But to your point, like people are tapping out and then taking a break and then pulling back in, right? And it's inevitable. Like there are more of in that debate you and I talked about that we welcome in the future about the entertainment industry. We'd love to just wind up in a debate between these handfuls of people making the decisions and these people making the decisions. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more of these people than there are of these people. Right. And so we have that power, not to sound corny, but like the power is literally in our people's hands.
And again, I'm motivated because the analogy I had made with like, we're all making a circle around our collective society of like what we want and who we find precious. And we're all like, I'm going to fight this side of the beast. And then the other side of the circle is like, I'm going to fight this side of the beast. Yeah. I'm going to fight this side of the beast. And we're all like circled up. And I really find that to be so empowering to be like, okay, I am united in this circle of people who are all fighting different fights. And when one of them falls down, one of them in the middle stands up and takes up that side of the barrier, and we all keep going. And I find that to be so empowering that I'll look over my shoulder and see my fellow soldier, like we're in, I wouldn't say war, but maybe.
No, it's a dramatic metaphor, but it is.
It's like we're in a circle fight with sticks, and like we're all poking at the beast around us, and we're all ready and supporting one another. And I think that's something I haven't felt in my whole life, being lifelong, of like at different corners of the circle of the fight, there's someone fighting for climate. There's someone fighting for immigration rights. There's someone fighting over there in that corner for this, for that, for something that I also believe in, and they're just as fierce about it as I am. And I'm, if I'm revved up, I'm fired up, that corner's covered, I trust that person, that person's going to make a difference, and I'm going to put my whole foot in this side over here too.
And let me tell you, it's why we call you all alumni, not just former guests on the show, because there's a collective of you all and it's also why it's so easy if you've experienced what you and I just experienced, when people say to me, like, why do you do what you're doing? Why are you trying to build a business and a career and a living around what you do? I'm like, oh, because maybe I'm weirdly disconnected from the rest of the world, but like I fundamentally believe that facilitating these conversations is part of this Renaissance revolution. Because I'm talking to you all, like I can't help but be energized. Like I would run through a wall for you at the end of today. Right. Like, and you're, by the way, you're the 176th of these conversations that I've got to have.
Dang it. I'm not an even number.
Right. And there's the next 9 out through 185 are already booked and just waiting to be had. So, I mean, like, and every one of you is standing and fighting a different part of the beast and telling us rhetorically and literally, like, this is how we need to think more entrepreneurially about this part of the beast. This is how we need to think and operate differently than we have in the past. And I'm like, oh, sister, there is no way that this whole thing doesn't end with us invariably leaving the world a little bit better off than we found it, which is my operating mission. Okay. Last question. So for those founders who are building across multiple ideas like you are, like a kind of across multiple fronts, what would be 1 or 2 pieces of advice to people that ways that you help to keep your vision clear and keep yourself focused when the world around you kind of pushes back on you and says like, no, just play it safe. Just focus on one thing. Just narrow your focus down. Don't worry about all that other stuff. Get rid of that old thing. Like just focus on this. Just focus on one thing at a time, Kyiana. Like what are 1 or 2, maybe they're just self tips that you say to yourself when you look in the mirror that have helped you say like, no, I can do multiple things at the same time and I can stay focused and move them forward.
What helps me? I mean, if we're going to do actionable items, I know this is boring an idea, but having a to-do list, having a to-do list for each one of them. I like sit down and I go on a piece of paper and I split it down the middle. And I'm like, this is Entertwine today and this is e.e.r.s today. And I look through the whole year and I'm like, okay, so these are my most intense event moments at Entertwine. What I'm not going to do is have intense things during e.e.r.s at that time, because that's going to just set me up for failure. And so I'm going to make sure that in July, I'm not doing anything on this side that's that heavy. And in November over here, I'm not doing anything on this side that's going to be too heavy, because they're not going to get done, because that's how you get overwhelmed. That's how you set yourself up for failure. Then there are times where I'm looking ahead of time. So I use time to my advantage. There was this one course I took at the University of Maryland that taught me how to be a better arts leader, arts organization leader. And it was basically like, when you are an arts organization, you don't make lots of money. Surprise, surprise. But what you do have is time. And you should use time as your currency. And ever since I have really understood what that means on how to build with time in mind, like, oh, we're going to have our 10 annual anniversary in 5 years. What do I want to do by that 5th year in 5 years? What do I want? How do I want it to be in 5 years? Okay, well, in order for that 5 years to happen, I want to have a parade. Sounds ambitious, but it's 5 years down the line. Okay, so what do I need to do to have a parade in 5 years? I can't have a parade in 5 years, Kyiana? That sounds disastrous. You're not doing enough. You can't have a parade. You have 5 years to figure it out. Figure out who you need to talk to in the city, what street you need to block out, what sponsors you need to have. 5 years is enough time to make that possible. And so now I think in years like that, where I can see the future.
That's like there's like 2 very distinctive tactics there that are related to the same fundamental thing, which is time, right? So you've got time management on a daily, weekly, monthly, to-do list, yearly, right? To-do list, like this idea of, okay, I'm going to be thoughtful about the management of multiple things because I'm going to do multiple things.
Right.
So I'm going to be thoughtful about managing that, right? And I love you. So you set yourself up for success, not failure, right? And then over here, you're talking about the broader kind of longer arc of time and how it plays in your almost kind of in your ambitious goal setting and a little bit of your dreaming, time is still a factor in how you're managing the dreams that you want to be the manifestations of your ideas.
And it allows you to, and when you put on events and spectaculars like a parade, or you like do a huge festival or an event, it allows you to not feel so panicked that you have to do it in the next few months. Like, I'm going to have a parade in 3 months. You know how panicked I would be if I had to do a parade in 3 months?
I would be.
Yeah,
I'd call you and say, how do we do that?
It's just unrealistic. I'm like, I have to go Parks and Rec now. I have to figure out all these different things. When you set it far enough in advance, you're able to break it down over the course of years. We're like, okay, so maybe next year we should just have something at the park and make relations with people at the park. Second year, we should have parks and then have tents and sponsors. The third year, we should probably have bigger sponsors, maybe a food truck. Maybe the fourth year, then we start inviting the community to come dressed up. Now, all of a sudden, I've actually created a parade without having said I had a parade, right? Like, now by the fifth year, now I want cars.
Super useful. Super useful and very actionable, in spite of the fact that I knew that you hated that. I was going to ask you that question because you're like, how do we take this philosophical conversation and then turn it into like
make it action items?
But that was, but I also love that you took a deep breath and you thought about what you really wanted to share. And we did that. I mean, that's hugely actionable advice for any young entrepreneur or entrepreneur of any age that's listening, that's thinking to themselves, I'm juggling a lot of things, and that frightens me, overwhelms me, and frankly, probably leads to my downfall in some of these things.
Yep.
And so boom,
it stops me from dreaming so big.
Think about the time here on the daily basis, which you can, and then think about time as the tool, kind of the creative tool for your dreams. Like that's awesome. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate taking that course, because there are moments where I want to do big events. I want to do big spectaculars. I want to take over like the LACMA and do like a 12th night or something like really impossible. I want to dream big. I want to put something out there that takes over Central Park or something crazy. I want to dream crazy.
Yeah.
And when I dream crazy and you're like, okay, so how is that going to happen? That sounds impossible.
Right.
And you're like, well, I don't know. But if you think about it in the course of time as your like in your favor, be like, I don't need to bite the whole elephant right now. I don't need to do everything right now. I can break it down into pieces over the course of each year. And then I'll just set a goal further out and be like, I think we could get this done in 5 years. Like, what could we do? And that is where you have the ability to have the artist mindset of, I'm going to have a Broadway production. Believe it or not, believe me, when I say I'm going to have a Broadway production in 5 years, and be like, you don't know anybody. Be like, bet. I have 5 years to find somebody.
Exactly. And for anybody that's listening or watching who doesn't believe that she operates with this level of specificity and preparedness, let me show you this on the video. Is I'm literally holding up the call sheet, the shot sheet, the script, like this whole package of documentations that got handed to me on a Saturday morning in South LA when we were getting ready to film, which was a new and amazing experience for me. But like, she's such a pro, and what made it easy was that like she was prepared, and a little bit of shout out, like I was prepared as well. And then the two of that married together to create what you guys will hopefully see and enjoy in the content that will come out over the rest of the year. Because it's an incredible conversation. But hey, like my friend, we could literally talk all afternoon. We're not going to do that. What people will never know is that you and I are laboring on Labor Day today.
So
because
cute.
we're enjoying, we're because you know why? Because we give a damn about this labor, because this labor is important, right? So,
I see what you did there.
And that's why we're doing it. So I've been super, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. For me, it's almost been like a postscript to our filming conversation that we had, which was very differently produced, but it still kind of had the same vibe to it. So thank you for that. Like, it's been a joy. Thank you for telling us all about Entertwine and how kind of the origin story of that leads us to this amazing civic engagement platform, which is just now coming out into the world with the support of your partners at Microsoft and Meta and all these different places and organizations that are supporting you and pushing you forward to be able to do this at scale. To all our investor friends and entrepreneur friends and corporate executive friends and civic engagement politicians that all listen to this show, like, I really encourage you to get to know this young woman, because she is working as an entrepreneurial thinker should, and to try to make this world a little bit better place than it was when she arrived here. And I have no doubts that she will indeed leave this world a little bit better place before you leave it.
Thank you.
So how can people in any format, whichever company, whatever, how can they find or follow you online if you would like people to do that, and or are there places that you would like people to go and like sign up or follow or some, sign up for a newsletter or follow up or follow on the website or something? Give us all
I'm
that
super
deets.
excited.
We'll put it all in the show notes as well for people, but give us those deets too.
Sure. So for Entertwine, if you're interested in the art space and you want to help people be more visible in that space and help us do productions and want to get more involved in that space, you can visit us at entertwine.us. You can also follow us on Instagram at Entertwine app, APP. And I'm super excited because if you go to our website at Entertwine, you can sign up for our newsletter. We're about to debut for the first time for years. We've had a whole bunch of people ask about this. We're going to debut the agent of Entertwine. I know. So now you don't have to just be on our newsletter. You're going to be able to talk to an agent, which would basically be me or one of our communication staff, and able to provide what we have been working hard on is like a counseling system of how to navigate entertainment. So we're going to be launching that in the next few months.
So it's an important time for them to have met you and to follow and find you online and all that, connect with the organization.
Get in line with the rest of everybody trying to have this information. Everybody's been on me about like, hey, when is this coming out? When is this coming out? And I was like, I'm working on it. And now I can actually say we're ready to test it out with the people outside in the newsletter. So if you're in the newsletter, you'll be one of the first people to test out the Entertwine agent. And then if you're looking to contact me for e.e.r.s, for your nonprofit, for your government department or your office, you can reach me at Kyiana, Kyiana, at e.e.r.s.us, e.e.r.s.us.
Awesome. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. You're the best.
Thanks, Rob. You're great too.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. We can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.